This case study examines a spiritually pragmatic approach for addressing an issue of global concern, the healing of a past national trauma. The study is entitled Discovering the Nation's Soul, an Important Step Toward Human Unity. It introduces the work of Wolfgang and Soleil Aurose, pioneers in the practice of nation soul discovery. I will explain the nation soul discovery concept throughout the course of the presentation. Wolfgang co-authored this case study with me, Shelly McNeal. We invite you to consider a world where people identify first as human beings and second by other identities incidentally imposed upon people by birth and consequence. Discovering the Nation's Soul, an Important Step in Human Unity case study, was published in 2015 by Bloomsbury Publishing, a leading independent publishing house established in 1986. Bloomsbury Publishing has companies in London, New York, Sydney, and New Delhi. Its 4 divisions include Bloomsbury Academic and Professional, Bloomsbury Information, Bloomsbury Adult Publishing, and Bloomsbury Children's Publishing. I presented the case study at the 2015 BIMTech International Conference of Management Cases. The conference took place in Greater Noida, India. I invite those interested in reading the full case study to visit my website, www.integraledu.weebly.com, for links to BIMTech. This presentation is based upon the case study. It also includes additional insights beyond the published work. The agenda for the presentation is as follows. Introduction, Plight of North American Indigenous Peoples, All USA Meeting, OM 2013, Symbolic Nature of the Analysis Framework, Case Study Findings, Future Implications, and References. If you were to ask someone with whom you just met to tell you a little bit about themselves, most likely that person would identify themselves using secondary identities such as nationality, religion, marital status, or professional title. Very few people, if any, would refer to their primary identity as a human being. It is not necessary to state the obvious empirical fact of common humanity because it is globally understood on a conscious and subconscious level. We are all human. This truth transcends all languages, belief systems, religions, and cultures. Quite possibly, this is the one thing we all might universally agree upon. There will always be people who believe they are more human than others, but in reality, there is only one species of human being on the planet at this point in time. All human beings are equally human beings. Despite the fact we enjoy a common humanity, society has chosen to define, construct, and choreograph life almost exclusively through our differences. This untenable and dysfunctional mode has led to increasingly lethal development of weapons, acts of war, terrorism, human rights violations, and other travesties. In 2013, people from around the world gathered in Ashland, Oregon, to discover the nation's soul of America. There were no political leaders or persons of notable influence in attendance. Without any apparent means other than goodwill and a desire to practice a collective yoga, 100 ordinary people came together with extraordinary intent to begin the process for healing the past national trauma that occurred in the United States at the time of European colonization. The All USA Meeting, commonly referred to as the OM, is an international annual conference for people interested in the conscious evolution and future of humanity, the practice of integral yoga, the vision of Sri Aurobindo and the Mother, and the sustainable international community of Oroville, founded by the Mother in 1968. Oroville began as a project and has developed into an international community known as the City of Dawn, the city the Earth needs, and the city of the future. Oroville's reason for existence is to realize human unity. Native American culture and spirituality carry core dimensions of the United States nation soul. Europeans and other immigrants contributed their essential aspects of America's soul being. Because of the devastating history of contact and colonization on Native peoples, these dimensions are not well integrated. Nation soul discovery is a process based upon Sri Aurobindo's integral yoga that is considered by practitioners as an important step toward human unity. Nation soul discovery practitioners' work aligns with the Mother's view that the unity of all the nations is the compelling future of the world. But for the unity of all nations to be possible, each nation must first realize its own unity. The reduction of the North American Indian population from an estimated 12 million in the year 1500 to barely 237,000 in the year 1900 represents a vast genocide, the most sustained on record. The cumulative intergenerational experiences of trauma and cultural loss act to perpetuate legacies of social systems, policies, and institutions that disrupt the natural protective and adaptive features of a culture. Over time, critical cultural protective factors are displaced by the shared experience of the cumulative trauma. In this way, historical trauma becomes a self-perpetuating phenomenon woven into the tattered tapestry of cultural identity. The Native American population has the poorest health status of any ethnic population in the United States. They experience violent crimes in general and sexual assault in particular at more than twice the rate of the general population. The homicide rate is twice the rate than all other races in the United States. Native American life expectancy is lower than that of every country in the Western Hemisphere with the exception of Haiti. There is considerable research that links trauma response to psychological and emotional disorders in primary generations of Native Americans. The Om presented a unique opportunity for mainstream and indigenous people to come together as healers, seeking to forgive and to be forgiven. Appealing to a sense of shared spiritual consciousness, Om participants honored the Navajo celebration of the summer solstice, a traditional way members of the Navajo Nation acknowledge water, sun, and earth as sources of life. Pat McCabe, also known as Woman Stands Shining, a member of the Navajo Nation and Om keynote speaker, combined a traditional wiping of the tears ceremony with the celebration of the summer solstice. According to McCabe, the wiping of the tears ceremony is a tradition that takes place approximately 1 year after someone in the community has died. People gather around the family and invite them to come out of their grief. McCabe said, "The wiping of the tears symbolizes a new commitment to life in the future." She spiritually and symbolically invited all to come into the abundance of forgiveness. She concluded, "Forgiveness is in accord with the right relations of one's soul and the souls of the people and nations." Wolfgang and Soleil Aurose began leading Soul of Nation workshops in 2011. They have led workshops in 8 countries, representing people from 23 participating nations. Wolfgang authored The Soul of the Nations, Evolution and Healing in German. The English translation is in process. Soleil authored Enlighten the Body, the Ladina Method. Nation Soul Discovery workshops are experiential in nature and are designed to reveal why souls might be born in specific nations, individual soul contributions in relation to a national soul dharma, the qualities of a country's soul and ego in one's own body, transformation of shadow qualities, and the construct of nations as purposeful spiritual beings that participate in the perpetual divine evolution. The presentations and workshops created a roadmap for participants to follow from aspiration to direct experience. Nation Soul Discovery workshops focus upon critical awareness and gratitude toward one country's air members through spiritual and somatic experience. The large white panels shown in the top right and bottom left were used to inventory the soul and shadow qualities of the American soul. It should be noted here that only mainstream Americans participated in this activity. Wolfgang explained that nation soul discovery inventories help us to facilitate the collective process of reintegration of the suppressed or neglected psychic and soul parts that is more or less necessary for nations to admit the past into current experience. The somatic cultural immersion that I experienced at the conference inspired me to travel to Oroville, India. I wanted to see and experience Oroville's collective aspiration for the divine and the realization of human unity. I traveled to Oroville later in 2013, not knowing what I would find. I wanted to experience firsthand the source of inspiration for the work Wolfgang and Soleil and so many others were doing. What I discovered was a place unlike any other. Everything about the people of Oroville was an expression of community. The symbolic architecture, the artwork, the layout of the city, all represented the nature of Oroville's aspiration for unity. The Matra Mandir is located in the city center, and it is the spiritual and symbolic core of the city. It is representative of humanity's collective aspiration to unite with the divine consciousness and manifest human unity. Architecturally, it is inspired by the Mother symbol. Her symbol is based upon the 12 powers of the Universal Mother. This is the Mother symbol. The dot in the center represents supreme unity. It is surrounded by an inner circle that represents the creation. The outer petals represent the 12 powers of the Universal Mother. Each power is expressed in colors that were selected personally by Sri Aurobindo. Aurovillians subdivide the 12 powers into 2 specific categories: those that concern one's attitude toward the divine, and those that involve behaviors toward humanity. The 8 qualities toward the divine are sincerity, humility, gratitude, perseverance, aspiration, receptivity, progress, and courage. The 4 qualities toward each other are goodness, generosity, equality, and peace. The golden dome of the Macha Mandir is upheld by 4 foundational pillars. These pillars are adjacent to north, south, east, and west entrances. The 4 foundational pillars are symbolic of the inner circle found in the mother symbol. The white marble center of the inner chamber, or dot in the center of the mother symbol, is a place for finding one's consciousness. A clear globe that rests upon a golden sculptural base that bears the symbol of Sri Aurobindo is located in the center of the inner chamber. The globe reflects a single beam of light from the sun that travels simultaneously in ascending and descending direction. The beam embodies Auroville's aspiration for the future of realization and human unity. "12 gardens surround the Macha Mandir that represent the realization of the supramental consciousness in matter. The gardens are considered symbolically as important as Macha Mandir itself. I combined the 12 powers with the 12 realizations into 23 soul attributes. Progress was both a power and a realization. The 23 qualities formed the symbolic framework I used to analyze the nation soul inventory responses. I grouped the 47 soul qualities and the 43 shadow qualities from the Om Nation Soul Inventory according to the 23 soul attributes developed in the framework. Democracy, rule of law, and reverence for America's land, sense of place, emerged as the divine soul nature of the American nation soul. Incidentally, both mainstream and indigenous Americans share the same common values, although mainstream Americans are largely unaware that democracy, as it was constituted and as it exists in the United States today, was first inspired by the Native American Iroquois Confederacy. Sri Aurobindo wrote, "3 things are in fact the nature of the soul. For freedom, equality, and unity are the eternal attributes of the spirit." I analyzed the data in a series of steps to reveal the shadow soul nature of the American soul. First, I compared the shadow qualities associated with democracy with the complete inventory of responses. I formed a new list of shadow qualities. Second, I identified a list of soul qualities that were opposite to the new list of shadow qualities. Third, I identified opposing qualities to the soul qualities to form the shadow aspect of the nation soul shadow. Using this method, capitalism emerged as the nation soul shadow of the American soul. Recalling that goodness, generosity, equality, and peace are the 4 essential qualities of the Universal Mother that are concerned with humanity's attitude toward each other, I call your attention to the 4th quality, peace. Peace was completely absent from the synthesis of democratic and capitalistic qualities identified in the workshop. This finding aligns with the empirical fact that the United States has been at war almost continually since the year 1776. According to a 2012 Independent Voter Network report, over the past 236 years, the United States has been fighting some type of conflict for 214 years, or about 90% of the time. The empirical behavior of war and peace emerged from the spiritual qualities of democracy and capitalism by omission. It is important to note that neither war nor peace were mentioned in the 47 Nation Soul Quality Inventory. This attests to the collective blind side of social consciousness that exists in the United States and the viability of nation soul discovery to shed light upon it. I hope you will agree that this case study revealed that nation soul discovery work is a spiritually pragmatic approach for identifying shared values in the soul, areas of disagreement in the shadows, and the revelation of blind spots in national identities. I define spiritual pragmatism as a practical application of spirituality in social theory and action. The unification of the indigenous and mainstream people of America has several advantages. Among them, America's position on human, social, and economic rights, environmental practice, and climate change. Confronting atrocities and gross violations of human rights convey important implications for both collective identity and public policy. In the year 2014, United States Secretary of State John Kerry addressed a global audience on climate change. Kerry called for industrial and developing nations to take responsibility and respond to the threat of climate change by working together to avoid instability and vulnerability. Secretary Kerry offered money, science, and political will as the United States response to climate change. Absent from Kerry's proposal was the role indigenous knowledge of sustainable living might contribute to the national policy. Native American tribes are sustainability experts who have known how to live in one place over long periods of time, and whose languages were virtual libraries of sustainable living. The benefits of bringing indigenous voices into the fore of global discourse cannot be quantified in terms of what might be gained and what has been lost. A second implication is for the opponents of globalization who fear the influence wealthy multinational corporations have had upon political decisions that impact people, economies, and ecosystems worldwide. Information communication technologies that mobilize feet on the ground advocacy turn the tables on the wealthy and the powerful. This effect has been referred to as soft power, a force on par with military and economic dynamism. Despite any positive results soft power has achieved, the danger of using technology and information to mobilize people into action against one another is that it reinforces the concept of secondary identities over our primary identities as human beings. Of technology, Native American scholar and writer Don Trent Jacobs, also known as Four Arrows, warned, "Technology will likely be destructive if it does not relate positively to community, communication, and culture in ways that emphasize balance, remembering the importance of one's sense of place, and self-determination." And finally, as a nation becomes conscious of its essential qualities, the nation can develop and fulfill the seeds of its innately unique mission and constellation, clarify its shadows. Only then will the nation be prepared for unity with other nations, and ultimately into a state of a multi-formed world society.